I'm Millionaire, looking to cheer up his paralyzed son, adopts a dog from a local shelter. One day, the dog does something unbelievable that changes everyone's life in the house. The mansion in the most prestigious neighborhood of Houston had lost its luster. The long corridors decorated with expensive artwork seemed colder and emptier than ever. Henry observed the city's movement from his office window, while his thoughts wandered to his son's room upstairs. The silence that dominated the house was interrupted only by the occasional creaking of Raphael's wheelchair, his 12-year-old son, who spent hours contemplating Memorial Park through his bedroom window. Henry's life, once filled with important meetings and business decisions, now revolved around a single mission: to bring a smile back to his son's face. The accident that had left Raphael without the use of his legs had taken much more than his mobility. It had taken away the contagious joy that once characterized the boy. The walls of the mansion, which once echoed laughter and lively conversations, now seemed to amplify the weight of silence. If this story has interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give a like. Tell us which city you're watching us from. We continue. That Saturday morning, something changed in the established routine. Henry, tired of seeing his son wither away in isolation, made an impulsive decision. "Sir Raphael," he called, entering his son's room, "how about we go to the park today?" The proposal was met with a distant look, but Henry didn't give up. With determination, he prepared everything for the outing: the special wheelchair, support equipment, a backpack with water and snacks. The journey to the park was silent, but Henry noticed small changes in his son's expression as they approached the location. Raphael's eyes, previously fixed on a random point, began to scan the landscape with timid interest. Memorial Park, with its century-old trees and well-maintained walkways, was particularly busy that day. Henry chose a quiet spot near the lake, where they could observe the ducks and people passing by. Raphael maintained his reserved expression, but something in his eyes betrayed a growing curiosity about the environment around him. Children ran and played nearby, their laughter echoing through the morning air. It was then that something extraordinary happened. A golden Labrador, with shiny fur and expressive eyes, slowly approached Raphael's wheelchair. The dog completely ignored the other people around, as if it had a specific mission. With surprising gentleness, it rested its head on the boy's lap, looking at him with a depth that seemed to break through all the barriers Raphael had built in recent months. To Henry's astonishment, a small smile began to form on his son's lips, the first in a long time. Raphael raised his hesitant hand, and when his fingers touched the dog's soft fur, something magical happened. The animal responded with such enthusiastic tail wagging that it was impossible not to be infected by its joy. "He doesn't have a collar," Raphael observed, his voice sounding different, more alive. Henry examined the dog carefully. Despite being well cared for, there was no identification. The Labrador seemed to have chosen Raphael specifically among all the people in the park. The rest of the morning passed surprisingly. The dog didn't leave Raphael's side for a moment, participating in a silent game of looks and caresses that seemed to heal something deep in the boy's soul. Henry observed the scene with a mix of emotion and hope, seeing his son show more life in those few hours than in the past months. When it was time to leave, Henry's heart tightened to see the expression of sadness return to his son's face. The Labrador, as if understanding the situation, stood firmly beside the wheelchair. It was at this moment that Henry made another impulsive decision, one that would completely change the course of their lives. "What do you think about taking him home?" he asked, surprising himself with the suggestion. Raphael's eyes lit up in a way Henry hadn't seen in so long that his heart almost stopped. It was as if a small flame of hope had been lit, promising to dispel the shadows that had inhabited their lives for so long. The arrival of the Labrador at the mansion brought with it a different energy. Henry watched, amazed, as his son seemed to wake from a long sleep. Raphael, who named the dog Max, began to show small signs of change. The first bath of the new family member turned into an adventure that filled the house with joyful barks and, for the first time in a long time, Raphael's crystalline laughter. Max demonstrated extraordinary intelligence. In the first nights, he established his own routine, sleeping next to Raphael's bed, always alert as if he were a guardian specially assigned to him. During the day, he accompanied the boy in every movement, every activity, with a dedication that impressed even the most skeptical staff in the house. The first physiotherapy session with Max present was revealing. The therapist, Dr. Lucas, initially hesitant to allow the animal's presence, was impressed with the result. Max seemed to intuitively understand when Raphael needed encouragement. In the most difficult moments, when pain and discomfort threatened to make the boy give up, the Labrador would approach, offering his silent support. "It's incredible how he knows exactly what to do," commented Dr. Lucas, observing how Max strategically positioned himself so that Raphael would push himself a little more to reach him. "I've never seen anything like it in all my years of practice." The routine of the mansion was gradually transforming. The once silent corridors now echoed with the sound of wheelchair wheels following Max in their games. The dog had developed his own game, carrying Raphael's favorite ball through the garden, strategically stopping at points that required the boy to push himself a little more to reach him. Henry began to reorganize his work schedule to spend more time at home. Mornings, previously dedicated to endless meetings, now began with walks in the garden, where he pushed Raphael's wheelchair while Max ran ahead, occasionally returning to check if everyone was following him. However, life had other plans to test the family's newly discovered happiness. On a seemingly ordinary morning, Max didn't appear for the morning ritual of waking Raphael. The dog, who never strayed from the boy, had disappeared during the night. The search began immediately. Henry mobilized the staff, searched every corner of the property, but there was no sign of the Labrador. "He'll come back, won't he, Dad?" Raphael's voice trembled and Henry felt his heart tighten to see the fear in his son's eyes. The progress of recent weeks seemed threatened by Max's sudden absence. Sadness began to infiltrate the boy's eyes again, like an unwanted shadow returning. Determined not to let his son return to his previous state, Henry initiated a tireless search. Posters were spread throughout Houston, rewards were offered, and every animal shelter in the city received a personal visit. The nights became longer, with Raphael resisting sleep, always waiting to hear the familiar sound of Max's paws in the corridors. During the searches, Henry began to hear intriguing stories. At one of the shelters, an elderly employee looked at Max's photo with a glimmer of recognition in her eyes. "This dog," she hesitated as if trying to organize her memories. "He has something special. I've seen him before, a few years ago, with a girl who was also in a wheelchair." The revelation left Henry intrigued. Was there more to Max's story than they imagined? The mystery behind the Labrador's past began to unfold, promising to reveal an even more extraordinary plot than the simple story of a stray dog that had found its home. Meanwhile, at the mansion, Raphael faced his own battles. The physiotherapy sessions, previously illuminated by Max's motivating presence, became almost insurmountable challenges. Dr. Lucas noticed how the boy's progress began to regress, as if the dog's absence had taken away all the hard-won motivation. The search for Max led Henry to unexpected discoveries. On the third day of searching, following a lead provided by the shelter employee, he arrived at a veterinary clinic in the Heights neighborhood. The veterinarian, Dr. Marina, a lady with gray hair and gentle eyes, instantly recognized Max in the photo. "This dog is a true urban legend in Houston," she revealed, leafing through an old file. 5 years ago, he helped Sophia, a girl with cerebral palsy, regain her movements. Then he appeared in the life of Lucas, a boy with autism who didn't communicate. In each case, Max stayed as long as necessary and then simply left. Henry listened in astonishment as the veterinarian shared more stories. Max seemed to have a special gift for finding people who needed help. In each account, the pattern was the same. He appeared mysteriously, transformed lives, and then disappeared, only to appear elsewhere where he was needed. But why would he leave now? "Raphael needs him so much," Henry questioned, his voice betraying the concern he carried. Dr. Marina smiled with understanding. "Perhaps," she suggested gently, "Max left precisely because Raphael is stronger than he imagines. These animals have a wisdom that goes beyond our understanding." Meanwhile, at the mansion, something extraordinary was happening. Raphael, driven by his longing for Max, began to show surprising determination in his physiotherapy sessions. Dr. Lucas watched amazed as the boy pushed himself harder than ever, as if he wanted to prove something to himself. "When Max comes back," Raphael declared during a particularly difficult session, "I want him to see me stronger." The statement moved everyone present. revealing a maturity and inner strength that no one suspected existed in the boy. The mansion's routine adapted to Max's absence, but in a different way than everyone expected. Instead of giving in to sadness, Raphael began to transform his longing into motivation. He asked for his wheelchair to be taken to the garden every day, at the same time he used to play with Max. During one of these moments in the garden, Henry was observing his son when he noticed something different. Raphael was moving more independently, using his arms to propel the chair with a skill he hadn't shown before. The physiotherapist confirmed the boy's muscles were stronger, his posture more upright, and there were promising signs of increased sensitivity in his legs. The search for Max continued, but now with a different purpose. It was no longer a desperate search, but a mission of gratitude. Henry wanted to find the dog to thank him for the transformation he had provided in their lives. It was during a visit to a municipal shelter that Henry discovered another piece of the puzzle. A volunteer recognized Max in one of the posters and shared a fascinating story. Years ago, the Labrador had been trained as a therapy dog, but escaped from the training center. Instead of returning, he began his own mission, choosing on his own the people who needed his help. Stories about Max began to spread throughout the city. Other families emerged with their own accounts of how the mysterious golden Labrador had touched their lives. Each story revealed a similar pattern. Max appeared in the most difficult moments, brought hope and transformation, and left when his mission was accomplished. At home, Raphael surprised everyone by expressing an unexpected desire. "Dad," he called during dinner, "I think I understand why Max left. He taught me that the strength was inside me all along. Now I need to continue on my own, so he can help other people like he helped me." The maturity in his son's words left Henry speechless. It was as if Max had left a much greater gift than his physical presence. He had awakened in Raphael a deep understanding about overcoming and personal growth. Raphael's transformation continued to surprise everyone. On a particularly sunny morning, during his physiotherapy session, he achieved a remarkable feat. He slightly moved the toes of his right foot. Dr. Lucas, who had been following his evolution daily, could barely contain his excitement. "This is extraordinary, Raphael," exclaimed the physiotherapist, carefully documenting the progress. "Your nerves are responding much better than we expected. The dedication you've shown is literally changing your story." Henry, who was watching the session, felt his eyes well up. It was as if Max's spirit was still present, guiding each small achievement of his son. The determination that the Labrador had awakened in Raphael continued to grow even after his departure. However, not everything was smooth sailing on the road to recovery. The intense pain that accompanied the exercises sometimes seemed unbearable, and there were moments when Raphael questioned whether he could continue. It was on one of these difficult occasions that something unexpected happened. During a walk in Memorial Park, now an essential part of Raphael's routine, a runaway bicycle was heading towards a group of small children playing near his wheelchair. Without thinking twice, Raphael used all his strength to turn the wheelchair, alerting the children of the imminent danger. The abrupt movement almost knocked him over, but something extraordinary happened. His muscles responded instinctively, keeping him balanced. "Did you see that, Dad?" exclaimed Raphael, still agitated by the adrenaline. "I felt my legs. It was for a second, but I felt it." The discovery brought a new wave of hope and determination. It was as if the instinct to protect others had unlocked something in his body that science still couldn't explain. Meanwhile, Max's story continued to spread throughout the city. On social media, hashtags like #WhereIsMax and #the four-legged angel gained traction. People shared photos and accounts of encounters with the Labrador over the years, creating a virtual map of his journey of assistance through Houston. A teacher from a special school contacted Henry, sharing how Max had spent 3 months at her institution, helping children with different needs. "He had a unique sensitivity," she explained. "He knew exactly which child needed attention at each moment. It was as if he could read their souls." At home, Raphael began to transform his room. The superhero posters were joined by photos of him with Max and newspaper clippings about therapy dogs. He began to research the subject, fascinated by the animal's ability to assist in people's recovery. One afternoon, while organizing his discoveries, Raphael made a surprising proposal to his father. What if we transformed part of the garden into a space for animal therapy, he suggested, his eyes shining with enthusiasm. We could help other children, just like Max helped me. The idea deeply touched Henry. His son, who months before could barely find reasons to smile, was now planning ways to help other people. It was a transformation that went far beyond physical recovery. It was a rebirth of the spirit. Dr. Lucas, upon learning of the proposal, was excited about the therapeutic possibilities. Interaction with animals can work miracles in patient recovery, he explained. What Max did for Raphael is a perfect example of this. Imagine how many other lives we could transform. The news of Raphael's initiative began to circulate around the city. Other families with children facing similar challenges showed interest in participating in the project. It was as if Max's mission was multiplying through Raphael's actions. An architect specializing in therapeutic spaces was hired to develop the garden project. Raphael actively participated in the planning, insisting on details that would make the environment welcoming and accessible to everyone. His personal experience was transforming into a gift for other people. The therapeutic garden project was advancing quickly, but with it came unexpected challenges. Henry discovered that his company was facing a serious financial crisis. The investment needed to transform the garden and maintain Raphael's best treatments was beginning to weigh on the budget. During a particularly difficult night, hunched over spreadsheets in his office, he found himself facing complicated decisions. "Dad?" Raphael's voice surprised him at the office door. The boy had noticed the concern on his father's face in recent days. "Is everything okay?" Henry hesitated, considering whether he should share his concerns with his son. Raphael, however, demonstrated surprising maturity. "You always taught me to face problems head-on. You can tell me what's happening." With a deep sigh, Henry explained the situation in simplified terms. To his surprise, Raphael listened attentively, and after a few moments of reflection, offered a suggestion that left him speechless. "What if we sold some of my video games? I don't use most of them anymore anyway. I prefer being in the garden, planning how we can help other people." His son's proposal, although small in face of the financial challenge they faced, deeply touched Henry. It was a gesture that demonstrated how Raphael had changed, how his priorities had transformed since Max's arrival in their lives. Inspired by his son's attitude, Henry began to rethink his own priorities. The mansion, with its excessive luxuries, suddenly seemed to waste space that could be better used. The imported car in the garage, the expensive watches, the artwork, everything started to be seen from a new perspective. During this period of re-evaluation, something extraordinary happened during one of Raphael's physiotherapy sessions. Dr. Lucas had brought a new equipment, specially developed to stimulate leg nerves. During the exercise, Raphael felt an intense tingling that spread from his toes to his knees. "This is amazing," exclaimed Dr. Lucas, documenting every detail of the nervous response. "Your nerves are reacting much better than we expected. It's as if your body is reprogramming itself." Raphael's physical progress coincided with transformations in the garden. The first phase of the works was almost completed, with access ramps, adapted paths, and strategically positioned rest areas. The space was beginning to come to life, even before being fully ready. One afternoon, while supervising the works, Henry received an unexpected visit. It was Helena, a local entrepreneur who had heard about the project through social media. She had a son with autism and was interested in the therapeutic garden proposal. "What you're doing here is revolutionary," commented Helena, observing the plans and the progress of the works. "There's nothing like this in Houston. Have you thought about turning this into a larger project?" The conversation with Helena opened new horizons. She proposed a partnership that could not only solve Henry's financial problems, but also expand the reach of the project. Her company could provide the necessary support to transform the garden into a reference center for animal-assisted therapy. Raphael, upon learning of the proposal, was enthusiastic. "It's as if Max had planned all this," he commented, his eyes shining with the possibility of helping more people. "He taught us that sometimes we need to lose something to find our true mission." The impact of the project began to spread throughout the city. Health professionals showed interest in participating, offering their services. Veterinarians volunteered to care for the animals that would be part of the therapeutic program. The community mobilized around an idea that had been born from the love between a boy and his dog. The partnership with Helena brought a new dynamic to the project. The therapeutic garden, which initially would be just a family space, began to transform into something much larger. Architects, occupational therapists, and landscapers worked together to create environments that would meet the most diverse needs. Raphael surprised everyone by actively engaging in the planning. His suggestions, based on his own experience, were invaluable. "We need areas where people can feel safe to try new things," he explained during a meeting, demonstrating a deep understanding of other patients' needs. Raphael's physical progress continued to be surprising. On a particularly special morning, during his physiotherapy session, he managed to consciously move both feet. Dr. Lucas, emotional, recorded the moment on video. "This is not just a medical advance," the physiotherapist commented. "It's a testament to the power of determination." The news of Raphael's progress spread quickly through the team working in the garden. The workers, who had already developed a special affection for the boy, celebrated the achievement with a small surprise. They installed an adapted swing in one of the most beautiful areas of the garden, under a leafy tree. It was on this swing that Raphael had one of the most significant experiences of his recovery. On a quiet afternoon, as he swung gently, he felt a deep connection with everything that had happened since Max's arrival in his life. "Dad," he called to Henry, who was nearby, "I think I finally understood the true gift Max left us." Curious, Henry approached his son. Raphael continued, "It wasn't just about helping me get better. It was about showing me that we all have a greater purpose." The wisdom in his son's words left Henry emotional. It was true, Max had triggered a transformation that went far beyond physical recovery. He had planted a seed of hope that was now growing and multiplying. The therapeutic garden had become a point of reference in Belo Horizonte. People from different parts of Brazil began to visit it, seeking hope and inspiration. During one of these visits, something extraordinary happened. An elderly lady, introducing herself as Dona Clara, approached Raphael with tears in her eyes. "You won't believe it," she said, her voice choked with emotion. "But I knew Max a long time ago, even before he started his journey as a therapy dog." The revelation caused an immediate silence in the group following the conversation. Dona Clara was a former assistance dog trainer and told that Max had been one of her first students. "He was always different from the other dogs," she explained. "He had a unique sensitivity, an extraordinary ability to connect with people who needed help. But one day he simply decided to follow his own path." Dona Clara's story filled in several gaps in the mystery surrounding Max. According to her, the Labrador had been trained in an experimental program that sought to develop dogs with advanced therapeutic skills. However, Max demonstrated an intuition that went beyond conventional training. "He started choosing his own missions," Dona Clara recounted. "It was as if he could sense who really needed him. When we tried to direct him to specific cases, he had his own ideas about who to help." Raphael listened, fascinated. Every word from Dona Clara confirmed what he had always felt about Max, that there was something special, almost magical, in the way the dog had appeared in his life, exactly when he needed it most. The impact of this revelation on the project was significant. Max's experience began to be studied more deeply, influencing how new dogs were trained. Instead of following only rigid protocols, trainers began to pay more attention to each animal's natural inclinations. During this period, Raphael's physical progress continued to surprise doctors. In a new evaluation, it was discovered that the sensitivity in his legs had increased considerably. Dr. Lucas was especially optimistic about the results. "It's as if your body is rewriting its own story," the doctor explained, showing the latest exams. "The nerves are finding new pathways, establishing connections we didn't think possible." Dona Clara's presence in the project brought a new dimension to the work. Her experience with Max and other therapy dogs was invaluable. She began working as a volunteer consultant, helping to identify and develop the special skills of each animal in the program. One day, while observing a training session, Raphael had an inspiring idea. "What if we created a Max diary?" he suggested. "We could gather all the stories of the people he helped, create a record of his journey." The suggestion was received with enthusiasm. Soon, people from all over the city began to send in their accounts of encounters with Max. Each story revealed a new aspect of the Labrador's extraordinary personality, building a mosaic of transformative moments. Helena, seeing the potential of the project, suggested turning the diary into a book. "Your story with Max needs to be shared with more people," she told Raphael. "It can inspire others not to give up on their dreams, even in the most difficult moments." The process of collecting the stories revealed something even more surprising. Max had touched many more lives than they imagined. Teachers, doctors, therapists, everyone had something to tell about the Golden Labrador that appeared in times of greatest need. The book project about Max took on unexpected dimensions. As the stories arrived, a pattern began to emerge. The Labrador not only helped people with physical challenges, but seemed to have a special gift for recognizing different types of pain: emotional, psychological, spiritual. One of the most touching stories came from a university professor. He reported how Max had appeared on campus during a particularly difficult period, when a student was facing a severe anxiety crisis. The dog stayed by her side for several weeks, accompanying her to classes and helping her regain her confidence. "It's amazing how each story reveals a new facet of Max," Raphael commented, immersed in reading the accounts. "It's as if he had an invisible map of human suffering, knowing exactly where he was most needed." The work in the therapeutic garden continued to evolve. The dogs in the program, inspired by Max's story, began to demonstrate surprising abilities. Luna, one of the youngest dogs, developed a special ability to calm children during difficult medical procedures. Donna Clara, observing the development of the program, shared more details about Max's initial training. "He had something we couldn't teach," she explained, "a kind of natural wisdom that went beyond any protocol. What we're seeing here is the continuation of his legacy." Raphael's progress also reached a new milestone. During an especially challenging physiotherapy session, he managed to take his first steps with the aid of crutches. The achievement, though small for some, represented a giant leap in his recovery journey. "Every step is a victory," he declared, inspiring other patients at the center. "And every victory reminds us that limits exist only in our minds." The impact of the project began to attract international attention. Researchers from different countries showed interest in studying the model developed in the therapeutic garden. The unique combination of animal-assisted therapy with a planned natural environment was producing extraordinary results. Helena, realizing the potential for expansion, proposed a new challenge: to create a network of therapeutic gardens in other cities. "What started with Max and Raphael can become a national movement," she suggested during a meeting. The idea quickly gained strength. City halls from different cities began to make contact, interested in replicating the project. Raphael, now a respected voice in the field of animal-assisted therapy, was invited to be a consultant for the new centers. Amidst all this expansion, something special happened in the garden. During a therapeutic session with children, one of the participants, an 8-year-old boy who hadn't spoken for months due to trauma, whispered his first word while hugging one of the dogs: "Friend." The moment perfectly captured the essence of what they had created. It wasn't just a physical rehabilitation center, but a space for emotional healing, where barriers were broken and new beginnings were possible. Henry, watching his son guide a new family in the program, reflected on how their priorities had changed. Success was now measured not in bank figures, but in recovered smiles, in renewed hopes, in transformed lives. "You know what's most incredible?" Raphael commented to his father as they watched the sunset in the garden. "Max never really left us. He just taught us to continue his work in a different way." On an autumn morning, when golden leaves were dancing through the therapeutic garden, something extraordinary happened. Raphael was conducting a session with a group of children when a familiar bark echoed through the air. There, standing at the entrance to the garden, was Max. The Golden Labrador, a little grayer in the face, but with the same expressive and bright eyes, remained motionless for a few moments, as if assessing the changes that had occurred in his absence. Raphael, using his crutches with ease, began to move towards his old friend. "Max?" he called, his voice trembling with emotion. The dog responded with a gentle and dignified wag of his tail, approaching slowly. There was no rushing or exaggerated displays of affection. It was as if Max was there for a final inspection, to make sure his mission had truly been fulfilled. The news of Max's return spread quickly. Soon the garden was full of people who had been touched by his story. Donna Clara, who was present that day, observed something interesting in the Labrador's behavior. "Look how he observes everything," she commented. "It's as if he's approving every detail of what you've created here." He always knew this would happen. Max spent the day in the garden, interacting with the children and observing the therapeutic sessions. His presence brought a special energy to the environment. The other dogs in the program seemed especially attentive, as if they were receiving a final lesson from the master who had inspired it all. During the afternoon, Max accompanied Raphael on a tour around the garden. The boy, who could now take firm steps with his crutches, showed his friend every corner of the space they had created. The Labrador stopped occasionally, as if absorbing every detail. "It's as if he came to see if we completed our mission," Helena observed, moved by the scene. Henry, watching the interaction between his son and Max, realized that the circle was closing. The dog that had appeared in their lives at the most difficult moment was now returning to witness the result of his influence. As the sun began to set, Max approached Raphael one last time. The moment between the two was silent but loaded with meaning. It was a farewell but also a celebration, the celebration of a journey of transformation that had affected not only their lives, but those of countless other people. "Thank you, friend," Raphael whispered, stroking Max's head. The Labrador responded with a deep look, one of those that seemed to pierce the soul. Then, with the same dignity with which he had arrived, Max turned and left, disappearing into the golden twilight. That night, gathered in the garden, Raphael shared his thoughts with the family and the team. "Max didn't just come to say goodbye," he said, his voice firm and mature. "He came to show us that his mission is complete, and that now it's our responsibility to continue his work." Max's visit became a new chapter in the story of the therapeutic garden. His appearance was seen as a seal of approval, a confirmation that they were on the right path. The project, which was already successful, gained an almost mythical dimension. In the days that followed, more people sought out the garden, inspired by the story of the reunion. The book about Max, which was in its final editing phase, gained a new chapter, not an ending, but a new beginning. 1 year after Max's last visit, the therapeutic garden had transformed into a true center of hope. The project had not only expanded to other cities, but also inspired a new generation of therapists and professionals dedicated to making a difference in people's lives. Raphael, now 14 years old, had become a living symbol of overcoming. His steps, once hesitant with crutches, were now firm and sure. On a special morning, he managed to accomplish something that seemed impossible, walking alone for the first time, crossing the entire garden without support. "Every step I take," he said during a lecture to new patients, "carries a bit of the strength that Max taught me to find within myself. They are not just physical steps, they are steps of transformation." The book about Max had become a national bestseller, touching hearts and inspiring people across the country. The stories gathered in its pages were not just tales of overcoming, but a testament to the transformative power of unconditional love. Henry, watching his son become a strong and determined young man, could hardly believe the journey they had taken. The mansion, once a symbol of status and loneliness, had transformed into a vibrant space of healing and hope. The corridors that once echoed sadness now resonated with laughter and stories of overcoming. The therapy dog training program had evolved in surprising ways. Inspired by Max's example, trainers developed methods that respected and encouraged each animal's natural abilities. The result was a new generation of therapy dogs, each unique in their abilities to help and comfort. On a special afternoon during the inauguration of yet another therapeutic garden in a neighboring city, Raphael shared a profound reflection. "Max taught us that sometimes we need to lose ourselves to find ourselves. Every challenge we face is not an obstacle, but an opportunity to grow and help others grow too." The impact of the project had exceeded all expectations. Researchers documented significant improvements not only in patients' physical recovery, but also in their mental health and emotional well-being. The model developed in the garden was revolutionizing the way animal-assisted therapy was viewed and practiced. Helena, who had become a key partner in the project, announced the creation of a foundation dedicated to expanding the work to underprivileged areas. "What began with a magical encounter between a boy and a dog," she said, "now has the power to transform entire communities." The garden continued to grow and evolve, but maintained its original essence. In a special corner, a discreet plaque told the story of Max, the golden Labrador who had changed so many lives. Beside the plaque, a new generation of therapy dogs continued his work, each carrying a bit of the spirit of the pioneer who had inspired it all. On a quiet morning, Raphael found an anonymous letter at the entrance to the garden. It was from someone who had been touched by Max's story and wanted to share a discovery. The golden Labrador had been seen in different places across the country, always appearing where he was most needed, always leaving when his mission was accomplished. Perhaps, Raphael reflected, Max was never just a dog. He was a messenger, teaching us that love has the power to transcend any limitation, that true healing begins when we decide to transform our pain into strength to help others. And so, Max's legacy lived on, not just in the pages of a book or in the corridors of a therapeutic garden, but in the heart of every person who learned that the greatest miracles happen when we open our hearts to help others. Dear listeners, we hope that Raphael and Max's story has touched your hearts. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like the video. Every day we bring unique stories that explore the complexity and beauty of life. Don't miss our upcoming content. We look forward to your comments.